welcome on into the main gallery, take a seat, have some food. We got to do first things first, of course, and we're lucky enough to have our own project coordinator for the zine and artist, Sonali Menezes, and she's going to start us out with a land acknowledgement. And so let's go over to that.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Sonali Menezes, and I'm an independent artist who collaborated on the zine we're launching tonight. Thank you so much for all of you for being here. Before I share a little bit more about the project, I wanted to start with a land acknowledgement. For me, offering a land acknowledgement is a small step in redirecting my personal relationship to the land and the land's original inhabitants. I'm a second-generation immigrant with roots originating in Goa, India. Some of my other roots are here. My parents and my siblings are here as well. I worked here at WAC for 2 years and feel very connected to this building and the land here. The land that WAC inhabits is the ancestral territory of the Wendat and Neutrals, and later became the territories of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg, who all lived here long before the city we know as Hamilton was established. We are part of the Dish with One Spoon territory, which is a treaty between the Anishinaabeg and the Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequently, other Indigenous nations and peoples have been invited into this treaty of peace, friendship, and respect. I am grateful for the generosity of the land, like the black raspberries that grow in the backyard here at WAC in the summer, and the large rays of sun that stream into the main gallery during the day. Because we are here launching a zine that addresses the violence of war, I feel that it's also important to address the ongoing violence of colonization experienced by Indigenous people. Ken and Brendan used a great word in one of their articles in the zine, behooves. I've been thinking about this word. To paraphrase them, they said, it behooves all of us to press for a speedy end to the war and to Canada's complicity in it. Similarly, I believe it behooves us to stand in solidarity with Indigenous peoples in their ongoing struggles against colonial violence, to stand in solidarity with land defenders here at Landback Lane, and similarly Wet'suwet'en land defenders who are trying to protect their land from being cut in two by the Coastal GasLink pipeline. As an artist, I'm trying my best to remain critical of arts programming and funding provided by RBC, which art washes in order to draw attention away from the violence of funding pipelines. For other artists in the room, I'd encourage you to inquire about the funding of the residencies and projects that you work on and apply for, and voice your concerns to institutions and organizations receiving funding from RBC. I'll let you know that Mayworks receives no funding from RBC. I also feel that it's important to draw connections between the way that the violence of war is at odds with the well-being and the health of the land, that the anti-war movement is also about the land. I'm going to hand things over to Carolyn at Mayworks.
Thank you, Sonali. This evening's event is part of the Mayworks Festival of Working People and the Arts. My name is Carolyn Combs, and I am the director of Mayworks. Mayworks was founded in 1986 and annually presents an interdisciplinary labor arts festival. We present works that advance the struggle for improved working and living conditions. Generally, our events have taken place in Toronto, but we are very pleased to broaden our reach and to be collaborating with the Workers' Arts and Heritage Centre for this event, as well as the exhibit around us, Infrastructures of Dissent, which is also part of the Mayworks Festival. I want to thank the Workers' Arts and Heritage Centre and Kat for all their help tonight. I also want to thank our funders and supporters, the Department of Canadian Heritage, the Canada Council for the Arts, the Ontario Arts Council, the Toronto Arts Council, as well as the labor community, our neighbors, including OPSU, CUPE, AMAPSIO, Unifor, USW, Rider Right, SEP, the Toronto and York Region Labor Council, Teamsters, OSSTF, ETT, and PSAC. Finally, I want to thank our Mayworks curatorial coordinator, Mitra Fakrashrafi. She's somewhere in the room, instrumental in organizing this. And the Mayworks Board of Directors, so we also have several in the room. I want to thank Simon Black from Labor Against the Arms Trade, as well as Ken and Brendan Stone from the Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War. Hi, Kat. I did thank you, too.
We're happy to have you.
We're very excited to launch this zine created by Sonali Menezes. This project was developed through a program that Mayworks runs called the Labor Arts Catalyst, where we pair artists with labor justice organizations to create research-based art projects. Sonali was paired with Labor Against the Arms Trade and has been collaborating with them, as well as with the Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War. We've just launched the 3rd edition of the Labor Arts Catalyst, and submissions are now open to create work for next year's festival. If you're an artist and want to learn more about this program, please come and talk to us. It's really been a pleasure working with Sonali over this past year as she has developed this project, and I'm delighted to turn things back over to you.
I'll just hand the thanks back to Mayworks because it was so amazing working with Carolyn and Mitra. And I want to give a special shout out to Mitra because I've been in program coordinator roles and I know the many hats you need to wear. So I don't know where Mitra is, but I'm giving you lots of positive love and energy, Mitra. So this project was really about the spirit of collaboration. And I think when I think about my role as an artist, I think that artist's role is to really make resistance irresistible, and I'm hoping that this zine is inspiring. And it was amazing collaborating with Simon and Brendan and Ken, and we're so lucky to have worked on this project together. And one of the things that I love about the format of a zine is it takes art off of the white walls of a gallery and it puts it directly into working people's hands. And I'm hoping that we're able to distribute the zine as far and as wide as we possibly can. I hope that everyone can grab a copy off of the table. It is also copy left, so you're welcome to make your own copies and distribute it as you see fit. And if you want a digital copy of the zine, come see one of us, give us your email, and we will also email that to you. So thanks so much for coming, everyone. After our remarks, I'm going to be doing some silkscreen printing of some posters in the back, and you can come and pull your own poster if you'd like to, and I can show you how the process works. I'm going to hand things over to Brendan.
Thank you, Sonali. Thanks, everyone. That was a powerful land acknowledgement. I haven't heard that many delivered with such heart, so thank you, Sonali, and I'm glad you all clapped for her. My name's Brendan. I'm the co-chair of the Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War, one of the sponsoring organizations. A lot of cooks today, as you can see with this. In fact, even literally with the catering. So thank you, Nabil's, by the way. You can thank them for the great food. I haven't had any yet, but we were really pleased when we learned that they were involved. So as the others did, I'd like to welcome everyone here on behalf of the sponsoring organizations such as Mayworks Festival, the Workers' Arts and Heritage Center, Labor Against the Arms Trade, and the Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War. My name is Brendan, as you know. I'm the co-chair and also sometimes radio host at Unusual Sources over at CFMU. We'll come off our recent hiatus soon enough. So that's Wednesdays, 5 to 6 p.m. But I also want to recognize we have Sabreina Dahab in the audience as she's from SASHA, the Sexual Assault Center, Hamilton area. You'll be hearing from her later on. So thanks for coming as well, Sabreina. There's a housekeeping item, and that not everyone might be aware of this, but there are washrooms available in this facility, and you can access them by exiting these doors here, going to the right, and taking the stairs or elevator down to the facilities, which are wheelchair accessible and gender neutral. So it's out the front there, and then to the right and down. If you have any questions, you can ask the personnel at the Workers' Arts and Heritage Center. So we're here to launch this great new zine, and we're really pleased with how it turned out. Very memorable, very sentimental in its artwork in some ways, and we're here to learn about that. Sonali has already told you some aspects of that, and after others talk about the zine and the main issues involved, we encourage guests to visit the gallery, and Sonali can show you how to make your own silk screen poster, perhaps. You can have some more snacks, visit our literature table, take home a free copy of the zine, and it's also available online as a PDF copy, and we'll find more ways to make that available. So if you have any questions or comment about the zine or any of the content in it, please feel free to speak individually with the speakers and organizers. So we have a few people that are involved in the creation of the zine, and also people that are involved in social and labor justice. And one of those individuals is Hamza Karim, and he's from the Yemeni Canadian community. He's been traveling, he's been out and about, and he has some some aspects of the background of this issue to share with us. So maybe this is a good time, Hamza, if you want to come up, and he's one of our speakers.
Thanks, Mother. Thanks, everyone. Before I start, I just want to say that I'm really, really glad to see this great turnout. I remember when we started long time ago with this movement, there weren't many people. I'm really glad to see that people are really aware of this both issue that is happening in Yemen right now, and they also know the Canadian involvement, or the Canadian government's involvement in this war. As Brendan mentioned, I was in Yemen, so just a brief introduction about myself. My name is Hamza. I'm originally from Yemen. I moved to Canada in 2011, and I still have my family back home, so I went back to visit them. And really one thing that I would like to highlight today is the fact that the war is still going on in Yemen. If you're trying to read news about Yemen right now, you might not find a lot, just because there was a truce that was signed last year. And the way that the global media is trying to picture this is that the war is over, but it's not. The war is still happening, although I'll have to say that in a different shape or form. So military operations have stopped, but the blockade on the ports and airports is still there. US and Saudi Arabia is stopping Yemeni people from using the money of selling oil and gas that Yemeni people own to pay salaries and revive the economy after it has been disrupted for the past 8 years. In terms of humanitarian situation, I have to say it's bad, and it's even worse than ever right now, just because of the fact that the ports and the airports are still blockaded. People haven't been paid salaries for the past 6-7 years. So last time, Yemeni people who are working for the government were paid salaries was in 2016 August. So you can imagine how it has been really hard for them to live a normal life. And apart from that, people are still suffering. It's really, really hard to see how people are living there. I kid you not that in Yemen right now, if you're able to secure 3 meals a day, you're considered to be lucky. If you have 1 meal a day, you should be a very happy person, just because it's really, really hard to survive there right now, given all the things that happened in the past, and because of the economic crisis that Yemen is going through right now. Again, I'm very happy to see this huge turnout, and thank you so much for supporting Yemen and Yemeni people. Hopefully this movement will achieve its objective and will convince the Canadian government to stop arming Saudi Arabia and using those weapons to kill civilians in Yemen, which I'm sure Simon Black will be talking more about. Again, thank you so much for coming out, and more than happy to answer any questions later on. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Hamza. And I said we have people that are involved in labor justice, and one of the people where this zine is a brainchild of is Simon Black from Labor Against the Arms Trade, who has been with this from the very beginning. So if you want to come on up and say a few words, Simon.
Thank you, Brendan. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. I'm Simon Black. I'm a lead organizer with a group called Labor Against the Arms Trade. which is a coalition of peace and labor activists who've been working to bring an end to Canada's participation in the international arms trade. And I'm so thankful to the Workers' Arts and Heritage Centre for hosting tonight. Very thankful to everyone at NAWorks, to Carolyn, to Mitra, for giving us the opportunity to participate in the Labor Arts Catalyst program. Thankful to Ken and Brendan and the rest of the folks with Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War for collaborating on this project, on this zine. And perhaps the greatest thanks, and our greatest thanks as Labor Against the Arms Trade, go to Sonali for really producing a beautiful piece of art about a very ugly issue. And that's Canada's arms trade with Saudi Arabia. As an organization that really works to mobilize labor movement opposition, rank and file trade union activists, opposition to Canada's arms trade, and particularly this arms deal that Canada has with Saudi Arabia, a $14 billion deal to send light armored vehicles. There's nothing light about these armored vehicles. They have cannons affixed to them. They're deadly. To Saudi Arabia, a deal that was struck in 2014 under the previous federal government, the Conservative government of Stephen Harper, but a deal that's been upheld by a government that has a stated commitment to feminist foreign policy, the Trudeau Liberal government. That's the government that's been signing off on these exports from 2015 until today. And one of the defenses of this arms deal that we hear, and I think it's one that I want to speak to directly as a trade unionist, as a labor movement activist, and as someone who works to mobilize union opposition to this arms deal and has done since 2019 when we were founded. The defense that we hear constantly from the Liberal government about this deal is that if the deal produces good jobs, that there's good unionized jobs on the line in a place that, not unlike Hamilton, London, Ontario, has been hit very hard by deindustrialization, has seen the loss of good manufacturing jobs, good union manufacturing jobs, places like Caterpillar moving to the United States, to a non-union right-to-work state, for that matter. And so I think it's an argument that would resonate in a community like Hamilton, just like it resonates with workers in London. But the thing is, what we found in our organizing is that the labor movement, the Canadian labor movement, the labor movement in Quebec, has not been convinced by this argument. When we started organizing around this arms deal in 2019, there was not a single labor federation or union in the country that had taken a public stand against arms exports to Saudi Arabia. When we signed on to a letter as Labor Against the Arms Trade with a range of civil society organizations in December of 2021, and that letter included humanitarian groups like Oxfam Canada and Quebec, and human rights organizations like Amnesty International. One of the names on that letter, one of the signatories on that letter to Justin Trudeau that said that all of these organizations and the people that they represent demand an end to Canada's arms exports to Saudi Arabia, including the export of light armored vehicles and of sniper rifles that are manufactured in another plant in Winnipeg. One of the names, one of the signatories on that letter was the Canadian Labour Congress, the National Labour Federation that represents the voice of over 3 million workers in Canada. So we went from a period in 2019 when we started our work where we didn't have a union or a local labour council or a provincial or national labour federation signed on to our campaign, to the point in 2021 where we have a letter not only with the name of the Canadian Labour Congress, but with the Amalgamated Transit Union, the Canadian Union of Public Employees, the Public Service Alliance of Canada, the United Steelworkers Union, the Canadian Office Professionals Employees Union. There was the CSN from Quebec. We had a list, Workers United Canada Council, a list of unions, national, provincial, local labour councils, provincial labour federations, and the CLC, who said to Justin Trudeau's government, we not only want you to end arms exports to Saudi Arabia, but we want you to work with the workers and the union representing those workers in London, Ontario, where these LAVs, these light armored vehicles, are manufactured by workers who are represented by Unifor, the largest private sector union in the country. We want you to work with that union and with those workers to ensure a just transition for arms industry workers in the event that this deal, as we're demanding, is canceled. And the thing is, it's never been a problem with the workers at the plant when it comes to this arms deal. Because if you go down to the factory in London, Ontario, at General Dynamics Land Systems, as we've been many times, some of the people in this room have joined us for protests and peace vigils outside of that plant. And if you greet the workers who are leaving on an evening after finishing their shift, or the workers who are entering the plant gates to start the night shift there, and you say to them, we oppose this arms deal, then they may look at you and say, well, you oppose my job. But if you say to them that if you had a choice to work manufacturing weapons of war destined for a brutal war in Yemen, destined for Saudi Arabia, one of the worst countries in the world for workers' rights, for women's rights, for human rights, or you could manufacture the kind of technologies we need to confront the climate crisis. If you could manufacture green technologies, if you could manufacture solar panels or wind turbines, or any range of products we need to confront climate change, then you won't find a single worker at that plant, at the gates on that day. You won't find a single worker who says, yes, I prefer to be manufacturing weapons of war. But the workers don't have that choice. And that's the choice that we, as Labor Against the Arms Trade, will fight for and will continue to fight for. And that's the choice that I want all of you to fight for as well. Because given that choice, those workers won't say, we're afraid of an end to this arms deal. They'll say, show us the alternatives. Show us the alternatives at the same wage, the same security for my family, the same prosperity for my community, the same benefits, the same protection of a union. And they will always choose to be manufacturing socially useful products than light armored vehicles destined for the brutal war in Yemen, destined for Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. Very impassioned. Well done. And thank you for showing labor organizing around the big picture. So coming up next, another of the organizations involved, my organization, Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War, from my family, the Coalition Treasurer, Ken Stone. Come on up.
Thanks, Brendan. Hello, brothers and sisters. On behalf of the Coalition, I'd like to thank the organizers for including us in the production of the zine and in the reception tonight. Ever since Canadians heard from former Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper that his government had authorized the biggest arms deal in Canadian history to Saudi Arabia, Canadians have been justifiably outraged. After all, Saudi Arabia has one of the worst human rights records in the world, and the ink was hardly dry on the contract when in 2015, that kingdom, the richest in the Arab world, launched its terrible military intervention in Yemen, the poorest country in the Arab world. Canadians have been fighting to terminate that arms deal ever since. There have been at least 5 pan-Canadian days of action to hashtag Canada Stop Arming Saudi, in which Canadians have picketed MPs and government offices, the General Dynamics plant in London, held public demonstrations, banner drops, and even car cavalcades. That sign there, Canada Stop Arming Saudi, was on Eileen Martel's car, and she just brought it back after 2 years. A little late, but better late than never. In addition, there was one picket of a Saudi ship in the port of St. John, New Brunswick, where union members refused to cross the line to load that ship. And there was one civil disobedience right here in Hamilton, where protesters sat down and blocked trucks that were trying to leave paddock transportation in Stony Creek. In addition, there have been a series of 5 open letters to the Prime Minister signed by dozens of civil society organizations, including, as Simon has pointed out, large and important trade unions. There have been parliamentary petitions, reports, articles in the mainstream media and the alternate media, webinars, multiple social media campaigns under the hashtag Yemen Can't Wait. I'm pleased to report that our Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War was in the thick of this fight very close to the beginning, and we're still in it today. And don't think for a moment that all that public agitation against Canada's complicity in the war did not move the needle of public opinion, because it did. Back in 2016, half of Canadians polled by the Angus Reid Institute disagreed with the Trudeau government sticking with the Saudi arms deal. By 2017, 64% of Canadians indicated they opposed the deal. In 2018, a full 90% of Canadian respondents were in agreement there should be no future arms deals made between the two countries. So why is it, brothers and sisters, that the Trudeau Liberal government continues to be complicit in the heartbreaking humanitarian crisis that continues to this day in Yemen? And the answer is that Canada has a made-in-Washington NATO foreign policy. But, as Sonali says, it behooves us as Canadians to press harder for our country to adopt an independent foreign policy, one that prevents us from being dragged into every war of the US empire. An independent Canadian foreign policy would support the popular movement in Yemen struggling to achieve national self-determination for the Yemeni people and to restore the territorial integrity of the country. An independent Canadian foreign policy would prompt Canada to cancel all existing contracts with the Saudis and its coalition partners and not to sign any future deals with authoritarian regimes. An independent Canadian foreign policy would triple Canadian humanitarian aid to Yemen and multiply many times over the number of Yemeni refugees admitted to our country. Some observers of the war in Yemen have noted a huge discrepancy in how the Trudeau government treats civilian populations affected by war. In the case of Ukraine, since February 22nd, 2022 until today, a total of only 15 months, the Canadian government has sent approximately $8 billion in aid. So far, nearly 170,000 Ukrainians have been admitted as refugees, with another 400,000 expected to arrive in Canada before the end of this year. In contrast, in the case of Yemen, over the 8 long years of war since 2015, Canada has only sent a total of $411 million in humanitarian aid and admitted only 300 refugees. I wonder, could the discrepancy be attributed to Yemeni skin color or their Islamic faith? You be the judge, brothers and sisters. Thanks to the mediation efforts of the People's Republic of China, Saudi Arabia and Iran, who were at odds over the war in Yemen, achieved a rapprochement and re-established diplomatic relations just a few weeks ago. Mere weeks later, a Saudi peace delegation arrived in Sana'a, Yemen's capital, to try and achieve a permanent ceasefire. Though hopeful signs of peace are now evident in Yemen, the war is not over yet, as Hamza has indicated. It will be some time. We invite everyone here to continue to work with our coalition to help bring about peace and social justice for the Yemeni people. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you. It's clear people in this area can reach a high degree of political consciousness, and also that the situation in Yemen and Middle East is very fluid. in Central Asia. So, by the way, the coalition contributed 2 articles to the zine that are presently available. For space reasons, they had to be abridged, so longer versions have been placed online. I think the links are in the zine, and they're going to be put up on the Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War website. So that'll be updated soon with pictures and PDF copy of the completed zine and so forth. So that'll be made available. I think our final speaker for the night is coming up, and that is Sabreina Dahab from the SASHA, the Sexual Assault Center, Hamilton area, one of the local activists that we're so pleased could come out today. So come on up.
Hi everyone, good evening. It's nice to see some familiar faces. My name is Sabreina, and I work at the local Sexual Assault Center. And I was asked to speak a little bit about the connections between war and sexual violence, and so I just wanted to give a warning for folks that I'm going to be talking for the next couple of minutes about the intrinsic relationship that exists between sexual violence and war. So a little bit about SASHA. We have a 24-hour crisis support line staffed by volunteers as well as workers at SASHA. We have up to 16, I believe, sessions of one-on-one counseling with counselors at SASHA. We have a public educator who goes out to schools, union spaces, wherever really to do free public education on consent, on sexual violence, trauma-informed care. And then we have the Diverse Communities Outreach Program, which is the program that I run at SASHA. So a lot of our work at SASHA is grounded in an understanding that to end sexual violence, we must end all forms of violence, and that includes war. And that there is an intrinsic relationship between capitalism and sexual violence, and the oppressions that capitalism and colonialism create. And one of the things we talk a lot about at SASHA is that the root cause of sexual violence is power and control. And those can exist in interpersonal relationships and dynamics, but also on mass scale, by nation states, by military regimes. And power and control fuel nation states and colonial systems. We have seen this through displacement, how sexual violence is used to displace people off of the land. And there's a long documented history of this, of forced sterilization, of legislation, eugenics policies, as well as a long documented history of Canadian soldiers who, when they go abroad, rape and assault women in Iraq, in Afghanistan, all across the Middle East. And that this is like a fundamental facet of how the Canadian military engages with people across the world. We know that the foundations of Canada is the imposition of a Eurocentric standard of everything, but particularly sexuality. And it's no secret what happens in the military here, and the relationship to sexual violence and heteronormativity. And oftentimes when we talk about sexual violence, we talk about it for how it impacts women and kids. But there's rarely a nuanced conversation on how this also impacts men in military, men in, and this is rooted particularly because of deep entrenched homophobia, as well as hypermasculinity and heterosexuality, which are things that are prized in military industries. And the last thing I kind of want to talk a little bit about is how colonial legal systems continue to let abusers walk. You know, and this isn't to say that if we had a better legal system that more abusers would be behind bars, because that isn't the solution, but it's to draw parallels between the legal system and its reliance on power and control, and how those things also impact survivors, and how that is the root of sexual violence. The last thing I'm going to say, I'm going to plug our first ever conference that is happening this week, this Thursday, at Gasworks, just down the street. There is some more information online. If you go to SACHA, S-A-C-H-A, you can register. It is free. We're going to spend some time talking about what it means to build cultures of consent, where community can protect each other, can rely on each other, and how we can build safer spaces for survivors as well. Also, just want to give a quick shout out to folks for organizing tonight and for putting together a really cool zine. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Sabrina is also a trustee at the Hamilton District Board of Education. So yes, I think this concludes the formal part of our event. So I encourage everyone who has not done so to visit the gallery and also have Sonali show you how to make a silkscreen poster. And also have more snacks, visit our literature table, get a free copy of the zine. This will become part of Hamilton history, like when my father made a record of the Bayfront Bus music video album back in the 1980s. So there you go. Yes, and if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to speak individually with the speakers and organizers. And I think Liz from Hamilton Coalition to Stop War has a sign-up sheet for future events of the coalition at our. We have a table here, so yeah, you might want to get on that. So anyway, yes, thanks very much, and yeah, this concludes the formal portion of our event. So thank you all for coming today.